Alright, so let's get started. We're on lists now. And so far we've learned that lists are very versatile. You can add objects, you can change the object in lists, but what else is there to it? So let's go over a few main functions that are built with Python. So the first one let's talk about is deleting an item. I'm at the grocery store and I realized we have tons of apples at home. I don't need to buy anything else. How do I delete apples from my list? So the quickest way to do that would be using the del function, D-E-L, okay? As you can see, as soon as we wrote it, it's become highlighted in a yellowish color, which is great. So it's del, and then we have to specify which list. So shopping list 2, and then the position of the item. So the position of the item is the 5th, so n-1 is 4, and it now says unexpected indent. So I will discuss this in a future lecture, but indenting in Python is quite key. Okay, I'm going to tell that right now, but I'll explain it more in detail probably in the following lectures. So del shopping list 2, 4th position. Now if I print out shopping list 2, what do we get? Eggs, carrots, chocolate, cherries. So apples has been deleted. Right now, take a mental note of all the functions that we're using. So let's go ahead and quickly make a note of the functions that we're learning in our arrays. First one was the del function, okay? The del function, all it does is it deletes an item from the list. So this is key. Whenever you have an extra item or if you have an unnecessary item, you can instantaneously delete it. Next, so we haven't discussed what happens when we want to add arrays. What happens when we want to subtract from arrays or compare arrays. So there's functions for all of that. Right now, I'm going to create two simple arrays. Array 1, that's going to have the value, let's say 23, 54, and 64, I guess. And array 2, which will have the values of 43 and 23. So if you're probably wondering here, how do I add array 1 and array 2? It's the exact same way we did with strings. So we can say array 3 should be equal to array 1 plus array 2. And by doing so, array 2, and if we now print out array 3, we'll get all 5 values. So adding arrays is as the exact same thing as adding strings. There's nothing to worry about there. Next function. So we've discussed delete. We've discussed adding arrays together. The next function we're going to discuss is len. So many times when you have arrays, you're adding object after object, object after object, and in the end you want to know, hey, how many objects have I added? What's the total number of objects in my list? That's where the function len comes in. So type with me here, len, and as you can see, it's again been highlighted, except this time purple. Len shopping list 2. So len shopping list 2 returns us 4. The whole concept of len is it returns us the length of the array. If I have 5 objects, it returns 5. If I have 15 objects, it returns 15. And once we get into loops, right? Once we understand how loops work, which will be, I'm pretty sure, in the next 3 or 4 lectures, then I'll show you how we can use len to iterate through our array. There's many different ways you can do that, but we'll get to there. Now, before I end this lecture, let's discuss 2 more functions, max and min. For example, I'm going to call this array num array, and I'm going to set it as the values of 36, 75, 100, or 1000, or 10,004, 1, and -5. So I've created a num array. It has 5 random values. Now, if you're wondering, how do I get the biggest value out of this array? And how do I get the smallest value? That's where the max and min function come in. So just like we used len, we typed len and then in brackets, the exact same way we can use the max and min functions. So max num array, sorry I can't speak today, and min num array. So by doing so, you can now get the maximum and minimum values of an array. Let's go ahead and add them to our notes. So we have del, we have len, we have max, and we have min. So again, there are tons of functions that you can use with arrays in Python. Alright, so before I end this lecture, let me just show you two more functions. And you're probably wondering, let's move on from lists. I'm getting bored of lists. Don't worry, this shouldn't take too long. So we discussed del, len, max, and min. Now, for example, if you want to add another object to your list, we've created this fantastic shopping list, and then you're like, oh shoot, I forgot to add broccoli. I mean, I hate broccoli, but still. So the way we can do that is shopping list2.append. The whole meaning of append is add an object. So shopping list2.append, I want to append broccoli, okay? And if you now print out shopping list 2, we're going to get eggs, carrots, chocolate, cherries, broccoli. It's that simple. So the append function will now add objects to your list. And last but not least, we have the count function. Let's say you have an array in which multiple values are repeating. 2, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 6, 6. And in that scenario, you want to know how many times is 2 repeating? How many times is 6 repeating? Stuff like that. That's where the count function comes in. So something you can do is shopping list 2 or 2.count, and let's say how many times is chocolate repeating in my shopping list. It's going to return 1 because I've added chocolate only once. Alright, fantastic guys. So we've discussed, I believe, 6 main functions dealing with arrays. Let me go ahead and add append and count. So these 6 functions will get you a long way through with lists. There are several more that we're going to discuss as we go along with this course, but hopefully you got a basic understanding of how lists work. Again, lists are the exact same thing as arrays. If you've ever dealt with another programming language before, you must have heard about arrays, right? Arrays and lists are the exact same thing. Don't worry, they're not confusing at all. Now, in the next lecture, we'll talk about dictionaries. So dictionaries is again another very cool data type which stores values, except it's just like a key. So it has a key and a value, a key and a value. So it's pretty cool, and we'll see to that in the next lecture.